Is this not working? Oh, there we go. Hello. Testing. Cool. All right. Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you. So yeah, today we're just going to be continuing on this multiplayer prototype. There are quite a few problems that I have to work through that I haven't yet gotten through, but after getting a lot of help yesterday from one of the NetFox contributors, Dusty Dog, I have a good setup going here, I think. That's making me feel pretty confident about the direction that this is going. But there are still some problems that I need to work through and some things I need to wrap my mind around still. So you're going to get to watch me struggle through all that again this morning. But hopefully maybe these VODs are useful for other people who are interested in using NetFox or just doing multiplayer in general. This is kind of a not very well trodden path, if I guess you could say. Like, there's not a whole lot of Godot games that are trying to do what I'm trying to do, and so there are very few examples out there. So I'm hoping that at a minimum these VODs are useful for anyone that's trying to get through the same thing or wants to build a multiplayer game in the future. But I'm also hopeful that this is going to pan out and be a good game eventually. So anyway, we got to work through all the fundamental stuff, though. I'm not going to start actually building the gameplay systems until I have a solid multiplayer foundation built here. So that's what all this prototyping work largely is about, is getting all the prototyping done, making sure that I can actually build the systems in a multiplayer oriented way, and then I can just start stuffing content. Because yeah, the big thing is that I just need to get the player controllers working in a very reliable and robust way. And once I'm confident in that, I think it's going to be relatively smooth sailing from then on out. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And we'll get into specifically what I'll be doing on this stream in just a moment. But first, Gunforged is available for purchase. So if you are watching this now and you haven't yet, and Gunforged is interesting to you, please check it out. It's the first link in the description below. Let me pull it up now. I posted on my X/Twitter this morning. But 34 reviews, 94% positive. So that's great. I mean, that's amazing. So thank you everyone who reviewed it. And yeah, if you do decide to purchase the game, it's still on launch discount of 20%. So that's a pretty nice discount for you. But if you do purchase the game, I would appreciate if you consider leaving a review. That would help me a lot. And yeah, anyway, advertisements aside. No, wait, I have one more thing to advertise. I have Udemy courses. So if you want to learn how to build a game in the Godot engine, check out the course links in the description below. Okay, now I'm done with the advertisements. All right, so welcome, Luca. Hello. Hello, Perseverance. Ju Games, welcome. You are early today. Hello, Luan. Didn't get your last stream. Looks like you've been having some challenges there. It looks very interesting, though. Yes, it is interesting. Yeah, I think it's fun for sure. Hello, my Coon Dev. Hello, Dusty Dog. Welcome back, and thank you again for your help yesterday. It's always nice to have the resident NetFox expert in the chat. Good morning, Christopher. Welcome back. Okay, so speaking of Dusty Dog was kind enough to provide a wrapper for the rewindable state machine that is in the NetFox Extras package. And basically, this rewindable state machine is just a state machine implementation that's built to work with the rollback system. And so I've been implementing that. And initially I was worried about it because the way that the rewindable state machine, and this is not specific to C#, but the way that the rewindable state machine is depicted in the docs is that you need to extend this rewindable state, and then you write all your state logic in here. There's a bunch of methods to override here. And the problem was that I need access to the player state in each of the states, right? And that meant that I was going to have to pass a lot of objects around from the player and different things. So like I need to move the weapon root around. I've got like attack direction. You know, there are just like references and variables that I need to access in those states. But the way that the state machine is set up is that you need to have these rewindable states as children of the rewindable state machine node. So what I did is I have a generic player state here, which could just be just a generic state. I don't even need to call it a player state. And the way that I'm handling this is I'm actually assigning a bunch of delegates for all the states. And so this is actually ending up very similar to my delegate state machine now, where I'm calling this method create state machine here in the instantiated, notification. And down here in this create state machine, I'm creating a new instance of the player state. I'm passing in a delegate function. So this is my state normal. And this takes so it matches the signature that the rewindable state method expects. And then I'm also using that method name as the state name. So I can just reference method name, not state normal here. And then if I need to, so that's just the normal state. So that's the state that will happen for every tick. And then I can, using this kind of chaining here, I can set additional states. So I can set enter states, display enter states, so on and so forth. And that assigns a bunch of delegates for me. And then the body of this method just becomes, display enter delegate, invoke if not null, right? The tick, I've got the tick delegate, so just invoke that because that's guaranteed to be there. So it actually ends up being very similar to my delegate state machine. But the nice thing is that I actually don't need to pass around a bunch of different state. Now I can keep my state machine script inside of my player, even though the actual state transitions and everything are being handled outside of the player class. So anyway, I'm feeling pretty good about that, and it seems to be working well. So there's that. So what do I need to do? There's a couple of major problems here that I need to resolve still. Number one, the enemy is not moving. So let's see. So if I go to host, join. So the enemy is not, this is the client here. The enemy is not moving and is not at the right position. But it is right on the server. So that's right. But I do have the hitbox is working here. So you can see that this is printing yo fam every time a hitbox collision happens. And that is also happening on the for the client as well. Now, the visual is not correct, but if I move such that I can actually hit the thing, we're seeing the yo fam. So that's working. So a couple of big things to resolve here. Obviously, we're going to need to figure out how to get this guy moving on the client, which I have not yet figured out. And then I also need to figure out how to synchronize the attack states more better. Because the animation that gets played for the weapon is based on the current combo counter. So this attack combo counter is what determines what animation gets played. Now on the client, all that's going to happen is the animation is going to get played, but on the server, it's the thing that's going to keep track of the attack combos for all the players. So basically that just needs to be synchronized. That attack combo needs to be synchronized back to the, back to what? Back to the player. Or back to the client. So anyway, those are some of the things that I need to do. And let's see. Hold on a second. I also found out, which was very helpful, also from Dusty Dog, that, let's see. If I go to my player, the way that the rollback synchronizer works is that starting at the root, it recursively finds anything that has defined a rollback tick function. So here, which I actually I guess I don't need this anymore because I'm using the state machine. So I guess that rollback tick would be in the state machine object. So that means that I can't have a rollback synchronizer anywhere as a descendant of the player because they will conflict. So that means that if I want to sync something from the base weapon, I guess I have to figure that out. And honestly, I don't even know if I should be synchronizing. Maybe I should be. Let me think. Should I use a rollback synchronizer for the attack combo value? I think, do I need to do that? Let me think. I wonder if I should just sync that normally with just like a multiplayer synchronizer or an RPC call, or if that should be added to the rollback state. I don't think so. I think the only thing that I need to put in the rollback state is stuff that's related to like lag compensation for the purposes of like, because the whole point of the rollback is it like replays based on the state. So it keeps a history of the state, and then if it needs to, it plays through that history. But for a value like what current attack combo you're on, I'm not entirely sure that that needs to be there. But I do probably want, so this is the thing where I'm getting confused with, I do probably want like a client-side prediction in the sense that I want to increment the attack combo on the player side because that's what's going to happen on the server. But if there's a mismatch between what the server attack combo value is and the player attack combo value, then I want to reconcile those and I want to use the server value. So maybe I do want to use the rollback just for the sort of reconciliation process, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what approach is good. These are the questions that I have to answer. It probably would be safe just to synchronize it with like an RPC call because it takes time for the animation to finish. Let's see. Yeah, so the problem is that yeah, I don't know. I need the client animation to always be correct, at least as correct as it can be based on the attack combo, but the server needs to own this attack combo value so that the players, when they send their attack input, are doing the correct part of their weapon animation, right? So anyway, I'm not going to figure it out by just talking about it endlessly, so why don't we start just playing around with it and seeing what happens. So let me commit what I have here first. So state machine work. I forgot to commit this last night. So we'll go ahead and commit that. All right. I found the problem with the input event actions, by the way. The short answer is that it makes sense and it's supposed to never fire. Oh, why is that? I'm curious to hear more about that. Hello, Splat. Welcome back. New state machine. Yes, indeed. Snup Bill with the message Yummers and the IDR 20,000. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. That's always very generous. Asadu. Welcome, Asai Dev. I like how the characters have a buck tooth. Yeah, I mean, this is it's just like temporary art while I'm figuring out how I want the game to play. Although I was thinking that kind of borrowing from my game Globins quite a bit, I think it would be fun to have like these basic cylindrical characters, but then have a way to customize them. So like you could have like a character creator that has different faces and mouths and stuff. But that's a little bit too far ahead to be thinking, so this is just for testing purposes, basically. Could very well change. I'm not even totally set on the sort of Globin style. So I'm gonna see what I can do about this attack combo. Now what I could do is I could probably, let's see. So if I go to my base weapon here, so we've got this attack. Enter state attack, attack direction, velocity. So basically, the way that these state machines work is that, and I was reading this, let's see. In the NetFox Extras rewindable state machine. I was reading about this, let's see. Enter exit callbacks are intended, wait, let's see. So the displayed state does not change. So basically these enter and exit state callbacks are for just storing the game state, so the velocity and whatnot. But the displayed state, like animations and stuff, are not going to be replayed. But also there's a, let's see, was one, transition callbacks are not always ran. This is by design and expected. So rollback ticks are only run for nodes that have known inputs for a given tick and need to be simulated, either on the server to determine the new state or on the client to predict. In practice, ticks are usually only ran on the host owning state and the client owning inputs. The rest of the peers use the state broadcast by the host. So that makes sense. So basically what I need to happen is the state related stuff. So the stuff that's going to be synchronized is what needs to be updated in the individual states here. So like in my state normal. And then the display states are basically the things that synchronize the visuals. So when I call base weapon.attack here, I wonder if I should, I don't want to do this. So I could synchronize the attack combo here. So I could go like copy node path, put this in here. Weapon scale, weapon root, offset, base weapon, attack combo. I think that will start synchronizing it. Is there a way that I can log that through NetFox? I would love to be able to see if that value specifically is being synchronized. Tutorial, guides, logging, log messages, info, useful information on expected behavior, extremely verbose messages to help follow the code flow to the smallest detail. Maybe I'll try debug. Is it already on debug mode? Let's see. Project settings, NetFox logging, log level. It's already on debug. What happens if I put this on trace? Maybe that will be too much. If the engine fired every input action for every event that matched, then it would be sending 2 events for any one. So it just sends the base type and you need to determine if it's an action. Oh, I see. Okay. So just to be clear, you're not keeping the mechanic you made for the build to scale. I am not. No, this game is going to be Globbins inspired in the sense that the arenas are going to be very small and maybe the visuals will be the same or similar, but I'm not going to have like the size rechanging stuff. That was for the jam. What I'm trying to do with this game is make it an RPG. So basically you grab a couple buddies, right? And these are your friends here playing, and you can choose to be a wizard or you can choose to be a fighter or something like that. And what I want to do is I want to design the game in a way such that basically the class that you choose just is what determines your skill trees. And then, but all equipment can be equipped by everyone. So you could be a wizard with a sword if you wanted to. And it's just like the skill tree may not be conducive to having a sword, but maybe you'll get a sword that has like a modifier on it that increases your spell damage or something, and it just ends up being something useful, you know? So it's going to be RPG-esque. The idea of this game is basically I just want to take like an action RPG, right, and condense the entire leveling and progression experience down into like a 30 or a 45-minute run that you can play with your friends. So that means that you'll be leveling up often, you'll be getting gear often, and then of course having like the meta progression systems. Maybe you can extract gear that you can start with on the next run, or you know, something like that. I don't know. That's kind of the general direction that I want to go with the game, but got to prototype the multiplayer stuff first and make sure that it's working correctly. Okay, well, this trace is very verbose, so that's probably not going to be useful. What's the state machine have you used in Gunforge for the enemies? I want to make a state machine for the player as well as for the enemy. It's, if you go to my GitHub, github.com/firebelly, there's a Godot utilities library. Inside of there, there's a delegate state machine for C#. I also have a similar delegate state machine for GD script, which, where is that? Let's see. Callable state machine. I'll go ahead and send this in the chat if anyone's interested. So I created a GD script version of the delegate state machine. Oops. Multiplayer action RPG. Yeah. I think it's gonna be fun because, like I said before in a previous streams, there seems to be quite a lack of or a relatively small number of roguelike games that are multiplayer. And I would say an even smaller number of roguelike games that are true RPGs where you actually get gear that has stats on it, right? I want to do the whole paper doll thing like Diablo or something where you have a helmet slot and you've got your 2 hand slots and and just being able to kit out your character during the run with different gear and just construct builds and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know how all those systems are going to work. It's a little bit too early to be thinking about all that. Right now, what I want to do is I'm trying to get a networked combat working. And then if I can get the networked combat working, see, that's not working at all. Let's see. Player state. So enter state attack. Set display enter state. Display enter attack, base weapon play attack animation. Yeah, I don't know how to track. Okay. Server attack combo. Server attack combo. Client attack combo. I really don't the thing I'm trying to figure out right now is if I want to store this in a rollback synchronizer. I think I do because that's related. That's part of the state machine state. And so in order for the state machines to be synchronized properly, I think I need that in there. See, I got stuck here. I don't know why. Grace timer. On animation finished. I have to unwind what's going on here. Is it scalable? Can it be used for any type of games? I'm going for Hades type. Yeah, it's just a state machine. I mean, I use that delegate state machine for loading some things. I use that delegate state machine for controlling the behaviors of in Gunforge, like the wave behavior. So when it enters the like running state where it's spawning enemies, and then it enters the ending state where it like shows you that the wave is complete, and then it spawns all the tables. All of those things are that's being used as a state machine. So you don't have to use it as like a state machine that's updating every frame. It's just a state machine, so you can use it for any purpose where a state machine is appropriate. Are you using only NetFox for the multiplayer, or are you using other plugins tools? I am using NetFox, but I also have all of the Steam add-ons as well. So the goal is to use the Steam multiplayer peer and the Steam networking functionality alongside NetFox, so that when the game is on Steam, you can just like right-click on your friend and say invite to game, and then they can drop in, right? What's the use of immediate state machine from your utility library? Also the state machine only? Maybe I don't fully understand that yet. I can't find a use case for it. I think that the immediate state machine, I think that's just kind of like legacy stuff. I might go in and delete that if I ever get around to maintaining that repo again. I would just use the delegate state machine. Play attack animation. So I need to figure out why the animations are getting stuck sometimes. What happens if I move this into the server? I know that's probably not a good idea, but for client responsive purposes, but let's see, host, join. Yeah, so it is synchronizing that value. I wonder if there's a problem with the timers here. There's so much with this system. Like there's so many things to untangle here. Okay, so this grace timer basically determines there's a period of time after the animation finishes wherein you can click the left mouse button again, and that will increment your attack combo. And after that grace timer is done, it just resets the animation, resets the attack combo. So the problem is that yeah, I think I do want to run this logic on both the client and the server. This attack combo value will be owned by the server though, but it will be incremented optimistically, I guess you could say, on the client so that the animations play properly. Yeah, I have no clue. Is there a way to test? I wonder if there's a way to introduce like an artificial latency with NetFox. Is that even possible? Because it would be nice to have like a client simulating like a 200 millisecond latency or something so I can see how it feels. Let me see. Or maybe there's a Godot setting for it. Because it's hard to, because like everything's basically instantaneous because this is on localhost, so it's hard to anticipate what a lower latency situation is going to be like. Let me see if Godot has that. Simulate latency Godot multiplayer. Make sure network condition on Windows significantly. Oh, there's like a third-party program I can use to So if I actually connected to myself via the internet, I could probably simulate it. I don't know. I would have to look into that later, I suppose. It'd be nice if it was just like a setting in Godot or NetFox where I could just say, hey, add this simulated latency. Okay, there are some complicated solutions to this. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about that yet. Not with NetFox, I use Clumsy myself. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into how to get that set up later then. Did I figure out what the issue was with the synchronizer? No. Not yet. Hello, Milk Wizard. There's a utility called Clumsy. Oh, very nice. Okay, yeah. So it looks like Clumsy is the way to go. Cool. Thank you. Wow, we have so many multiplayer experts in the chat. Okay, anyway. Which is great for me, because then I don't have to do the hours of research or whatever it would take. So yeah, it's good to know that Clumsy will work. Yeah, see, this animation is not working properly, and I don't know what's happening. Oh, I don't think I reran the game. Let's see. This is not something that I need to dwell too hard on, I suppose, as long as it just works for the most part. The animations need to be synchronized. Seems good enough. So one thing that's interesting is that, right, so I keep forgetting the rollback tick is run on the server for all the connected clients, for all the players, but then the rollback tick is only ran for the client player here. So I have to keep in mind that the server is basically always going to look correct, but the clients, when there's a differentiation, so you could see here, you see how this guy is flipping correctly. So if I move my mouse to the left, he looks to the left, and then he looks to the right here. That is being reflected on the server window properly, which is up here. But the same is not true of the server player on the client window. And the reason for that is because the transform that controls that flip is not being synchronized. So I think that's a big thing that I was missing, or did not have in my mind properly, is that those rollback ticks are ran on the server for all of the players, and then that rollback tick is only ran for the player who is whose input is owned by the player. That makes sense. And that makes sense because you want the rollback tick to run on the client for responsiveness purposes, but there's no reason to run that rollback tick on all the other connected clients on a client version, because that's just going to be based on what's being synchronized. So in here, in order to get that flip working, I'm just going on tangents right now. This is very unstructured, but I'm just trying to figure things out still. So this, the flip animation, this visuals.scale, so that is what needs to be synchronized, because that's what determines the flip. So this would be visuals scale. So now you can see that the flip is properly happening now. I might be able to just, I wonder if there's a way I can just do that on the client. Now the server animation is wonky. Maybe that's related to the interpolation. going to stop synchronizing the weapon root transform. I'm wondering if I can, let's see. Oh no, the animation still looks bad. I see. Why is that looking bad now? See how the animation looks bad? Why is that happening? It should just be playing the animation on the... So it looks right here for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So the client and the server version of the client looks good. Server looks good, but then the client version, so there's maybe some interpolation happening here. Oh, I think there is actually. Yeah, this global transform here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. I think the interpolation is messing with the animation. So that's going to have to be something that I think about as well. So I wonder if I should just simulate then instead of synchronizing that kind of stuff over the network. Oh, it still looks bad. Why does it still look bad? The animation is not correct on the client side. Okay, I'm going to remove visuals.scale too. I'm going to just pare this back a little bit for a second. Okay, all right. Well, there was another problem to think through. I think I remember you saying at some point you'd consider moving to GDScript for next game. Are you too far invested into C# now? Well, I thought I was going to use GDScript, but I think that C# is going to be a better choice again for me. I still might move to GDScript. It depends. I mean, I don't know for sure, but just if this game has as many systems as I think it's going to have, it's going to be much easier to keep track of all that stuff in C#. Okay, so this animation is not working at all in the client. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? Let me print some things. I will wrap my mind around this eventually. I will figure this out. If not multiplayer manager.is server and do I have a reference? Oh, I don't have the reference to the player input. gd.print huzzah. So I'm only going to be printing on the client. I want to make sure that that state is entered properly. There's something weird with the transforms here. Oops, wrong one. So if I host, join, so huzzah is being printed there. So it is, yeah, it is playing the animation every time, but for some reason, it's not, the animation's not correct. It's trying to, it's almost like it's trying to interpolate something, but I don't have, there's nothing in here that should be interpolating the weapon stuff. I removed all the weapon root. I guess there's the, no, that's attack combo. Mouse position is attack pressed. State machine state. Why is the animation wrong? Is it trying to... It's not trying to play the animation multiple times. Curious. He read fast, much fast. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why is that animation not working? I tell you what, once I get through these problems, we will be golden, pony boy. But I really have no clue why that animation is not working. So here's my animations. They're just animation players, which I need to find a better way of doing animations too, because this is not going to be scalable. I might just craft all the animations with tweens. So there's swing 1, swing 2, swing 3. This hand remote transform. It's not the remote transform, is it? No, it shouldn't be. I don't know why the animation would look different. I'm literally just saying play the animation. Oh, maybe this recovery tween is a problem. When is that recovery tween done? On animation finish, start recovery tween. Maybe it's this. It's probably this. It's probably the recovery tween is running when it shouldn't be. Curious. Okay, so let's see. GD print animation finished. Let's do this actually. So if this looks a little bit haphazard, it's because it is. I'm basically just hopping around trying to answer as many critical questions as possible. So I'm not really trying to do anything super coherent at the moment. I'm mostly just trying to work through these issues and see if I can get through them. So here. So starting recovery tween. So I think the problem is that the recovery tween is running. Okay, all right, so, okay, all right, so, okay. So the problem is that the recovery tween is being started on the client side for the server player, and that's fighting with the animation that's being played. And the reason is because I'm connecting to this animation finish signal. So yeah, now there's a question of, do I want to just keep the prerequisites of the animation state synchronized, or would it be easier just to say synchronize the transform? Man, can you show the logic for determining and playing the anim? Yeah, so that's part of the state here. So in here, when I enter the state attack, it's calling base weapon.attack. And there's also a display enter attack that's configured. So attack will be called that. All this does is this sets a grace timer and also keeps track of the attack combo, and then if it's on the server, it spawns a hitbox. And then the display enter attack plays an animation based on that. But I'm pretty sure what's happening is that I have this recovery tween, which is designed to reset the hand into the proper position if you don't take advantage of that grace period. So if I do this, see how the hand returns back to normal? That's a tween that's happening there. The problem is that that works great there, but that tween is being started for the server's player on the client side prematurely. So it ends up fighting the animation. So the tween and the animation are running at the same time, and that's creating the bad animation. So yeah, now the question is, how do I synchronize the start recovery tween here? Or do I even want to do that? Would it be easier just to synchronize the transforms instead? Would it be easier to synchronize? I figured I could just run all the animations on the client and all I need to synchronize is the attack combo. But there's various timings and stuff like the grace timer and the recovery tween. Oh man, what do I want to do here? The problem is that this grace timer is only being done on attack, which is not being, well, let me see. Yeah, it's the display state. Wait a minute. The display state is what gets called for the other clients, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that the other clients or the other connected players ever enter that. Well, I guess I could try it. I don't think, yeah. So when I enter the state attack, I don't think that this actually happens. So if not multiplayer manager.is server and player in component.get multiplayer authority is equal to 1. So basically we're going to say for the server's player on the connected client, if we enter the state attack, we're going to say, yo, I don't think that this ever happens. I think the only thing that happens on the clients, or on the puppets, I guess you could say, is this display enter attack. Which would make sense, I think. I keep getting an error here too. Could not find type network clocks in the current scope. But if I rerun it, it's fine. Anyway. Yeah, see, so that state is never being entered. So this state attack, which is running during every tick, this is only going to be run on the server and for the client that owns that player, or that player input. If I moved this same one over here, we should see server player entering attack animation. So that makes sense. The problem now is I just need to figure out what to do about the timing synchronization, or if I want to even bother with synchronizing time or what. See, you can see server player entering attack animation being logged there. So that's really the thing that's happening, because then this play attack animation is called, it starts an animation, the on animation finish kicks in. Yeah, I've got to figure out what to do about this now. Network clocks error looks like a race between auto loads. I got a note made of it. Okay, cool. Very nice. Hello, bad cop. Welcome, welcome. I wonder if I should, let's see. I think it would be ideal not to have to synchronize the hand position or the weapon position. But that means that I need to make sure that these... I wonder if it would just be easier just to send an RPC to start the recovery tween. And I probably don't want to hook into these signals if I'm not the owning player. The problem is that this is a separate scene. This is a base weapon. So I'm going to need to probably pass a reference to the player input component, or otherwise notify if the base weapon is owned by this player. I was also messing with multiplayer recently. Yeah, it's a whole beast. Let me try this. So let's see. Public void set is owned by player. Private bool is owned by player. Hello, Hori Portier. Lurking, all good. Welcome back. So now this base weapon here. Set authority peer ID. I'm just gonna do something very dumb in here. Base weapon dot set is owned by player. Peer ID is equal to multiplayer multiplayer manager dot multiplayer ID. What? What? Oh, dot instance. And I believe this is being called before the ready method, so yes, okay. That's very sloppy, but we're going to keep that in there for now. So basically what I'm going to try to do now is in this base weapon here, only connect to these signals if it's owned by the player. So that should prevent any related timing issues. And then for this start recovery tween, I wonder if it would just be easier to do an RPC call for this. So far my experience has been this probably would have been easier without the multiplayer nodes, yeah. Statistically, 6 out of 7 dwarves are not happy. That's true. Welcome back, Adam. For me, frustration is always the point right before breakthrough. You got this. Cheers. Thank you for the $10, Joshua. I very much appreciate that. That's very generous. Thank you, thank you. And welcome back to the stream. Great to see you. So I'm going to do an RPC call here. RPC mode. We're just going to do it... authority, I guess. Maybe this is not what I want. Call local true. RPC method name, start recovery tween. We don't have any parameters. On grace timer timeout. This. Now the question is that going to work? Call local. Dot print. Let's do this. If not, I don't think this is going to work. Multiplayer manager to is server. I want to make sure that this is called by the owning player. And then replicate it across. Wait a minute. This is a mess. This is a mess. I don't know if this is correct. This might need to be if is owned by player or it's the server. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, this is not working at all. So basically what I'm saying here is for any non-server, non-owner clients, don't connect to these signals. So I'm trying to basically this class just needs to be a dummy class for any client that is not the currently controlling player and is not the server. It doesn't need to actually run any functionality. Okay, so that's working. Okay. Okay, so the animations are working now, so I figured out that issue. It seems to be fine. I don't think that print was correct. I want to see what this does. Basically, I want to make sure that the client that's doing the animation is able to call that as well. So it happens instantaneously. I don't think that's right, actually. So what's happening is I'm sending the server sending the RPC. Wait a minute. Shoot, this is very difficult. So it's being printed twice, which probably means that it's the call local is working. I think this is being called twice. Because when the server... So the server's calling that for the player. I wonder if this would just be easier if I just dealt with whatever lag there was. I don't know. I'm trying to make it maybe too responsive, but if I turn call local to false, I should only see one print per thing. Yeah. So that's relying entirely on the server to call this start recovery tween. I wonder if I could do this, actually. Call local true. If, let's see, far from peer is equal to multiplayer API. Is it multiplayer API? Get, nope, okay. Get remote sender ID, that's what I want. If from peer is not equal to multiplayer API, multiplayer manager dot instance dot multiplayer ID, if from peer is not equal to that, or from peer is not equal to multiplayer manager dot server peer ID, then we're going to return. And then gd.print. I wish I hadn't gotten rid of that. So now I should only see this being printed once, I think. Anything display related probably shouldn't be handled server side. Is there no way to override the tweening? Well, it's a matter of the timing, right? Like I need... These timers are on the server side, like the grace timer. I don't know, like, then the grace timer determines when the recovery tween happens. So the grace timer determines two things. It determines how long you have until you can enter the increment the attack combo, but it also determines when the recovery tween starts. Well, the recovery tween needs to happen after the mechanical effect. So the recovery tween needs to start after the grace timer is depleted, right? Runs out. But I either need to synchronize the grace timer across all the clients so they can all play the recovery tween at the same time, or I have the server manage the timing and then send a notification to all the players that they should start the recovery tween for that peer, right? So the problem here really is just the timing. Like, how do I get all the clients on the same page as to what the grace timer is? Like, maybe I'm overthinking it, but if the server owns the timing, I don't know. Does that make sense? What I explained there? Like, ideally, I'd be able to handle the animations and stuff. It's just that grace timer is a mechanical thing, right? Okay, well, this isn't even working anyway. I think I need this to be and. If from peer is equal to multiplayer manager server peer ID. And if this is coming from the server, hold on a second. I want to print this. I agree with Dusty Dog. You should only send things over the wire that affect game mechanics and let the visuals follow from that. Right, but that's the problem. The grace timer is a mechanic. So the grace time is owned by the server. So I'm in a situation where I either need to sync the grace timer to the clients so that they know when they need to play the recovery tween, or I can just let the server deal with the timeout and then broadcast to all the clients that this grace timer is done, and that will trigger the animations. So I guess it's a little bit misleading to say start recovery tween. This would be more appropriately labeled as like grace time ended or something. But the fact of the matter remains, I still need a way of notifying the clients, either by synchronizing the start time of the timer or notifying when the timer ends, when that grace period ends, right? And I don't think it would be a good idea to, in the attack, this play attack animation, which gets called on all clients, I'm not sure that it would be a great idea to start the grace timer in here, because there are other game state places where that grace timer is modified. So at the end of the day, that grace timer is what determines when that start recovery tween needs to play. And like I said, I either need to make sure that they all count down the grace timer at the same time, or I can basically just say, do an RPC call when the grace timer is done, so that the clients can then handle any display that needs to happen out of that, right? That's the problem that I'm running into. That's basically what I'm dealing with. So it's not a purely visual thing. It's actually a mechanical thing that has a visual consequence, but it is a mechanical thing that needs to be synchronized in some way. But please let me know if I'm thinking about it wrong. Maybe I'm just not getting something through my thick head about this. Is from server. So if is from server and not is from owning client, or is not is from server. This is my way of preventing it from being called twice. I probably will need, so basically what's going on here is, I know this is a little bit wonky, but I'm allowing the start recovery tween to be called on the client that owns this timer as well. Yeah, this would be a lot simpler if I was just dealing with pure server authority, but I'm trying to make it responsive. So I am maintaining this timer on the owning client as well, just for responsiveness purposes. But the server still needs to run this grace timer for all of the players as well. So yeah. You should use, well, I don't know if you're understanding my problem here. Is from server is a red flag. This is purely a response to that grace timer ending. And all I'm saying is that in order for the client to mitigate the latency from the client, I'm allowing this to be called locally by the owning client. That's all that this is doing. So this is saying prevent a double call if it's being sent by the owning client. If it's from the server and not from the owning client, that means that this is just an RPC that's being replicated across all the clients. But this is in response to that grace timer ending. I don't know what you mean when you say use the inputs. The inputs don't have timing information. The inputs are used to start the attack animation and to start the attack combo, but the server is ultimately the owner of that grace time, wherein a player can execute the next attack in the combo sequence. The rest of the clients need a way of knowing when that combo timer is over. And so trust me when I say, like, maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but this is a complicated problem. I know it looks overcomplicated. I know I'm looking at this and I'm like, is this the right way to do it? But I don't know how to do it otherwise. The clients need to know when that grace timer is over. There's no way around that. So there's different approaches, but they need to know when the grace timer is over. I thought you were using NetFox and the inputs are replicated, yes, but the inputs have nothing to do with the grace timer. Unless I'm thinking about it wrong. So the other problem is that I'm using the rewindable state machine. This attack is never going to be called on the Puppet clients. So all of this in here doesn't get run except by the server and the owning client. So all of this in here, yeah, it doesn't get, this gameplay state stuff doesn't get run on some of the, I don't know what to call them, puppets or clients. The inputs are handled in here. Player input component is attack pressed, transition to state attack. That transition to the state attack, this display enter attack is the only thing that's called for the non-owning clients. I don't know, I gotta get my terminology straight. I don't know how to differentiate this properly, but this enter state attack is called on the server, but also on the owning client for latency mitigation purposes, right? So the player that owns, what do I want to say? The client that owns the player will be running this logic too for the sake of responsiveness. But this logic is also run on the server. And then the rollback synchronizer is what facilitates the reconciliation of those two states. But for the clients that aren't, so for the other clients that are connected and displayed on the screen, none of this gets run, only this display stuff. And then of course, like the transforms and synchronize and everything. So there's like a ton of things going on here. It's not as simple as like, well, just enter the state attack on all the clients, because that's not how this rewindable state machine works. That's how I did it when I did my multiplayer Globins game. I did synchronize the state across all the clients. So I basically just said, here's an RPC call, the state has changed, broadcast that to all the clients, and then run the logic there. And then I was able to more finely tune, like, okay, if this is not on the server, then don't run this logic, because this is, the movement logic doesn't need to run because it's going to be synchronized by the server. But that's in the traditional paradigm of like, you're just dealing with the round trip latency, right? So the Globins multiplayer, there is no lag compensation or client-side prediction or anything. It's just, you send an input to the server does its thing, the server broadcasts the changes out. And that works fine for that game. But if you were on like a 200 millisecond connection, that would be a very noticeable problem. You be careful with a ton of checks is from server. That's usually a sign your designer's wrong or you're not syncing a specific property or something. Well, the only reason I'm doing this is from server here. So this is a purely display thing, right? This recovery tween has no bearing over the functionality of the game. And I'm allowing it to be called local for responsiveness purposes. So basically, when the owning client calls this start recovery tween, that will happen even if the client's a little bit ahead of the server, right? That's all that this is doing, and it's preventing a double call because call local is here. But I don't know, maybe that is not the right way to do it, but I don't know a better way as of right now of handling that. Why not sync the rep and sprite and rotation then? That is another possibility that I'm going to be experimenting with here soon, but I mean, it would be more efficient, right, to only send like very minimal updates. Like a single RPC call to this would be better than synchronizing the state every frame, but synchronizing the transform every frame may be easier. The other thing is I don't know how my animations are going to look. So if I said, yeah, so the problem too is like, do I just not play the animations then on the connected clients and just rely on the transform of the hand? Because that would simplify it, because then I basically just say, play the animation on the server and on the owning client. And then synchronize the position for everyone else. But I'm going to try that. That's the thing I'm going to try next. Then the sync nodes will do it for you. Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. Is like, do I want to do that? How does that work with my animations, right? If every weapon has an animation combo, wouldn't it be better just to play the animation on the client rather than having to synchronize the position 30 times a second? That's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. Is like, can I just derive the weapon position based on synchronizing the states, like when the animation trigger happens, versus synchronizing that every network frame. A bit of a workaround could be a recovery state. A recovery state. Oh, I see. So that's a good idea. Is that a good idea? So yeah, so I have a recovery state in the state machine. I think it really depends on the game. I could see an FPS wanting to have the most. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna try. Like I said, I still want to try synchronizing the weapon positions and broadcasting that out instead. I just don't know if that could potentially break my animations, especially with like the tick interpolator, because I'm not guaranteed, I guess, that the tick interpolator is going to interpolate in the same way as the animation player keyframes. Now, the network loop rate 30, which is 30 hertz, may be enough such that it's not really noticeable. But yeah, that's going to be the next thing that I try. But anyway. And I guess I don't really, part of it is I don't know how much is too much to be synchronizing at once, because if I'm synchronizing the player transform, and then I'm synchronizing the transform of the hand individually from the player, and then I'm synchronizing all of the enemies' transforms, and all of the enemies' hands' transforms, like at what point does that become too much data over the network? Probably not going to be that big of a problem for people with decent connections, but if the entire point of doing this NetFox thing is to make it good for lower quality connections, then my hunch is that that would have to go hand in hand with not sending a bunch of unnecessary data through the network. This isn't even working anyway. There's an error here. Visuals should follow the model. So it could be that you need to send the animation and progress during that animation instead of starting tweens. Well, that's just not going to work because the tween is necessary because the recovery tween resets the weapon to its standard position, but each animation leaves the weapon in a different spot. So I can't do an animation that says like, oh, well, here's the recovery animation, because I don't know where the weapon position is going to be when the recovery tween starts, right? Am I joining late into this prototyping? Are you following any tutorials or guides? I'm reading the docs for NetFox, but otherwise I'm just struggling through it. Start recovery tween is not allowed on root. Base weapon from mode is 2, authority is 1. Oh, that's not even working anyway. Okay, I'm gonna try the transform synchronization, I guess. It's being called on a client by the looks of it. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I'm trying to keep in mind is like the responsiveness for the client. So in the same way that the client should start moving instantly on this screen when they press an input, the recovery tween visuals should also start as soon as they can instead of waiting for the server to tell it that it can. But the problem, so that's easy enough to do, right? You can start the recovery tween on the client, but the problem is that the recovery tween needs to be started on all of the other screens as well, right? So that's what I was kind of trying to do here, but let's get rid of that because that's not really working anyway. Oh, wait, I still need this. I still need this. Is that it? Was that the only place I was calling start recovery tween? Oh, down here. Okay, all right, so let's try something else now. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work with yeah, this is not going to work with the state machine, this display enter attack, because this is what plays the attack animation from the animation player. So if I'm synchronizing the transforms of the hands, now I'm in a situation where I need to find a way not to synchronize it, not to call that display enter attack on the clients that it shouldn't be called on. So yeah, this is a little bit This is a little bit tricky. Because this is going to break if I just add the transform. Why is this an erroring? That's not an error. That's not an error. Okay. Anyway, let's just try it. Okay. Base weapon, weapon sprite. I actually don't know. The other problem is that this is a scene, so I don't know if I should really be reaching down into that scene to, oops, copy path. Weapon scale, weapon root, weapon offset, base weapon. Yeah. Weapon sprite, global transform. So we're going to try synchronizing that now and see what happens. Oops, I hosted twice. Yeah, I just don't think that this is going to work. I don't think that this is going to work unless I do this. Just for... I'm just going to see actually what happens if I just restrict the animation playing to the server. That's not what I want to do, but I want to see if I even got the transform synchronizing correctly. Okay, that's like very broken. Okay, something's not right. I think what I'm trying to do is just really complex, at least with the way I have it set up. Simplest way I can see forward is currently bugged on NetFox. Trying to think of other ways around to fit your style, but we have pretty different approaches to this. Well, what would be the proper approach then? What is the approach that you would take, Dusty? I might have to think a little bit differently about how I'm doing all this stuff. Like I might need to rethink having the base weapon as a scene. Might have to rethink how I want that grace timer to work, and figure out how to get that all working with the rewindable state machine here. But this state machine, I mean, I'm supposed to play animations in this display enter attack. So that's just going to work. It's just I need to figure out what to do about that grace timer, really. That's really all I need to do, is get that grace timer correct. Because this server, it never starts that recovery tween on the client side. Plays the animations correctly. Oh, that's not working either. There's some bugs. Reference tick 31 missing for 33. Seems like the recovery anims are not active triggers. What do you mean by active triggers? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if this was, I mean, like I said, if this was like the globins, all I would do is I would just synchronize the state. So I would have everything using the same state machine. Wouldn't have, and obviously this is necessary for the way NetFox works, but with the sort of naive server authoritative approach, all I did in globins was I just synchronized the state. So when the server detected that a player entered a new state, it did an RPC call telling all of the clients to also change all the players into that state. And then I was able to, within those state machines, basically say, okay, here's the server logic, so don't run this if you're just a client, but then here's all the display stuff that needs to happen. And so that's how I handle it with globins, but there's a couple of complicating factors here. So one, I'm using a different state machine that deals with reconciliation, right? So there's a state that needs to be reconciled between the client and the server for client-side prediction and input latency mitigation, right? So, and I'm trying to work within that paradigm. So basically, with my recovery tween stuff, I could take the naive approach and just have the server say, hey, start the recovery tween for this client. But now I'm moving away from the client-side prediction, right? Because even though my recovery tween may need to start immediately after I finish my combo, if I wait for the server to tell me that the recovery tween needs to start and I'm on a 200 millisecond connection, then that's going to, my sword is just going to hang in the air for 200 milliseconds until I get that call, right? So these are all the things that I'm thinking about. It's like, if I'm going to be client-side predictive, I need to go all the way with it. I need to make the player feel very, very responsive while still maintaining a server authority. And that's where a lot of this complication is coming in, right? Because obviously this would be very simple doing the naive approach. Like I explained, I've already done it with globins. It's just that this added complication of trying to maintain client responsiveness and utilizing the tools available to me for that is, I just need to figure out a way through it, that's all. Can't they be left as a client responsibility with no RPC required? Well, that's the problem, is that those recovery tweens start after a grace period, which is also a mechanical factor. The grace period being like a third of a second. So this combo here, you have a third of a second to input another attack to chain the combo. And that has to be server authoritative, right? So that's a 0.3 second window that is a game state. So that needs to be owned by the server. But when that window is over, all the clients need to be notified, like right here, you can see on this window here. This client needs to be notified, or this server player needs to be told, okay, your grace window is over. Now you can shrink it. So I need to synchronize those times somehow. Like I said earlier, I either need to send an RPC call to all the clients saying, start this grace timer, or I need to send an RPC call to all the clients saying, the timer's up. Those are the only two options that I can really see. But I also have to do that in a way that maintains the responsivity or the responsiveness of the client who's being controlled by the player. Do you see how it's complicated? Our covering state in your state machine will work. But I don't think, it would basically just be a copy paste of the normal state then, but maybe that would work. The grace timer is a bit of a trap to me since it doesn't fit in with a rollback, operating based off of what tick you received the input on and having logic in the tick or rollback tick. The grace timer is a bit of a trap, so it doesn't fit with rollback, operating based off what tick you received the input on and having the logic in the tick or rollback tick. I see. So you're saying make the grace period in terms of ticks. So if I wanted to be a third of a second, I can make it 10 ticks. How does that get replicated to the clients, though? I would still need probably like Wooter Commander says a recovering state so I can trigger the necessary animation. I went with that approach in my game. I wrote my own reconciliation prediction code, but didn't bother applying it to the state machine only for inputs. Basically, the client runs its transitions locally, and on the server, the transitions are replicated to their clients. Yeah. Would work with reconciliation and then separate the mechanical timer from the visual timer. One big issue I have currently is that Grace Timer does both mechanical work server and display work client, bit of a conflict. Okay, okay. So, let me think about this then. I'm trying to understand. I guess I don't really understand that distinction. So would it be the case that, let's say that this Grace Timer became just purely visual? I still need a way of restarting that Grace Timer every time this animation is played, which I can do, right? So I could just say, you know, start the Grace Timer in here. And then I can listen for that time being finished so I can play the recovery tween. Because this is what's called when the display enter state happens. And then if I have a tick timer that runs in here, let's see. I have a tick timer. I have to read up on the ticks. I'm actually not entirely sure how I can use those effectively in Yeah, I understand separating visuals from gameplay. I'm just not seeing how there's much of a difference in terms of the Grace Timer. That's what I'm not connecting. Like, a visual thing needs to happen after the Grace Timer is finished, which is a mechanical thing. So the Grace Timer is a mechanical thing where there's a visual thing that happens after the mechanical thing, right? To me, it's like saying, well, you shouldn't have the left mouse trigger an animation because the left mouse input is a gameplay thing and the animation isn't. It's like, well, those two things are related to each other. They're dependent upon each other, right? Like, of course, you play an animation in response to a gameplay thing, right? The Grace Timer is not so, but I understand that, okay, it's kind of fulfilling two responsibilities, right? It's a mechanical thing, but it's also, yeah, I guess I just don't understand the distinction. That's all I'm saying. The Grace Timer is a mechanical thing that has a visual thing that needs to happen in response to the timer ending. I understand what the tick, though, stuff that I need to do for reconciliation purposes. I don't know how to do that right now, but that gives me something to do maybe later this afternoon when I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, I think I just don't understand the distinction in this case between visuals and gameplay. Because the visual thing is happening in response to a gameplay thing. Since client-side, the timer will work there since you don't need it to be rollback aware. Okay. I'd say it's just cosmetic, so it doesn't really need to be server authoritative, has no gameplay impact. Well, the timer, the window, like I know the visual has no gameplay impact. I got that. I understand that 100% completely. But the timer itself has a gameplay impact. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking the grace timer is a cooldown of sorts. Yeah, it is a cooldown. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. But the visual happens in response to the cooldown expiring. That's the thing, right? So I think what I can do though is I can just set I could just so the thing is basically I'll just be maintaining 2 timers in parallel. There's a timer that only controls the visual, and there's a timer that controls the gameplay window wherein you can do the combo, and those 2 things run in parallel at the same time. They may be slightly out of sync because the clients are going to be running this visual timer, but the server is going to have authority over the gameplay timer. I just don't understand the point of separating those 2 things, though, if they're the same thing. Like, I understand the reconciliation. I understand why I need a tick timer for reconciliation purposes. But the way I was approaching it, like, I guess I don't see why I couldn't just use the grace timer for both, you know? On the server, the grace timer has a gameplay implication, but on the client, it doesn't. They just need to be synchronized. Yeah, no, I got that. But it's like, so when I was building Globin's, you know, you can use the same node for different purposes, right? If the server owns the grace timer node, then it has a gameplay purpose. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't have a gameplay purpose, but you can still do things in response to that timer happening, right? So I guess I'm not really clear. I'm not really seeing why I couldn't just use the same timer for both things. Where the client and server are out of sync. Yeah, but that's still going to be a problem, right? You do need to spread the cooldown info. No, maybe I'm not making myself clear. On the clients, the grace timer would have no effect on the gameplay whatsoever, except to listen for the timer being done to play the recovery tween. But when you're running on the server, the grace timer has a gameplay implication. That's all I'm saying. And the server and the client are still going to be able to be out of sync, right? There's still a possibility that the visual timer will be completely out of sync with the server timer. You currently work on a local host. Once you introduce latency, their purpose and logic differ. Let's see. Should probably be on 2 different state machines, however that fit your architecture. Okay, well, let's try this then. Let's try this. Animation player. So let's do this. Let's rename this to animation grace timer, just to be clear. Animation grace timer. So animation grace timer. Animation grace timer dot. Can I call dot stop on a timer that's not running? We'll see. Okay, so this attack, I need a different kind of tick timer, which I'm not actually entirely sure how to implement right now. But let's just not do that for now. Oh, you know what? I should probably put this logic here. Okay. On animation finished. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. On grace timer timeout. Animation grace timer timeout. We don't want that there because that's going to have to be handled by the tick timer. Okay, so I'm imagining, so I probably have to hook into some of these life cycle stuff, right? Let's see. Network events. No. Let's see. I mean, do I just do like before tick loop? Can I search? Oh, wait, that was what I wanted. On prepare tick, after prepare tick. I don't know what to use here. Before, whoops. Movement vector, so on before tick loop. Minute before a tick loop is run. So I probably want to do I want to do after tick loop here? Network time dot before tick loop, before tick event, on tick event, after tick event, after tick loop. So after tick event maybe is what I want, because that will give me the tick number that I need. Or no, maybe I can get it some way. Tick. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay, so after tick loop. So do I need to synchronize the tick when the attack was started then? Is that what I need to do? Network time after tick loop. Actually, you know what I probably need to do? Well, we'll deal with that later. Private. Void. Normal timer can work for testing. It'll just break once you leave localhost. We can discuss NetFox things later. It's a bit much to go over here. Yeah, I guess the thing that I'm not understanding is why, if the server owns the timer... Oh, I guess because the server's maintaining its own timing. And if you have a timer that's just running in the process method, or in the process loop, it could come out of sync with what the server time is. Is that the problem? So even if the server owns the timer, the Godot timer, it's not necessarily going to be correct. Am I on the right track there, or on after tick loop? Okay, so private long tick grace ticks remaining. Grace ticks remaining. That's the main issue. The timer may not even exist on the client anymore. A client can send you an input from many milliseconds ago. A timer could elapse, but wouldn't have elapsed if the input was sent immediately. Oh, I see. Okay. I see. Okay. Right. So we want to operate on the basis of ticks for the purpose of reconciliation. Okay. I think I'm understanding it. So let's get rid of this garbanzo. On after tick loop. So this will count down the tick grace ticks remaining. I still don't know if this is what I want to do, but let's see. So if grace ticks remaining is greater than 0, now here's a question. Wait, do I want that to do the after loop? I guess I don't worry about it yet. Now the problem is, wait, how do I know when this grace ticks remaining is done? Let's see. So I guess I need to, do I need to synchronize this grace ticks remaining then? So like play recovery animation here. Play recovery animation. Wait a minute. Now I'm confused again. No, this isn't related to animation at all. Grace ticks remaining. So private const int grace tick duration. Is there a way to, well, never mind. Grace tick duration. So I am assuming that I probably need to synchronize this. Do I? I'm assuming that this is going to be decremented immediately too. So it's only going to be 9 ticks really, but anyway. On animation finished. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see what happens here. I don't think, do I need to, let me think. You said something about, wait, let me look. Keeping track of when the input was received. Well, I'm sure I'm doing something wrong with this grace ticks, but I have to read up on the docs some more about the tick loop. It's a bit like jump buffering for platformers. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I'll be happy if I just haven't broken anything. Okay, so that's definitely broken. Why does this keep... I don't understand this. It doesn't like the Godot tween lines for some reason. Anyway, okay, I've done something wrong. That is not working at all. It's also immediately going into its recovery. Why? Why is it immediately going into its recovery? What? Animation grace timer. I'm just going to print the attack combo in here. I don't think this attack combo is right now for some reason. Grace ticks remaining is greater than 0. Increment the attack combo. Okay, well, let's see. The attack combo is always 1. Which means that this is never... I must be doing something wrong with this tick. I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue what I'm doing. Do I need to synchronize that? I mean, I guess I'll try it. I don't think I need to, though, do I? Or maybe I need to take the approach mentioned earlier, which is I need to track... I need to track the... What is the word I'm thinking of? The tick on which the input was received instead? But I guess this makes sense, because I'm supposed to... Any gameplay state needs to be synchronized in the rollback synchronizer, right? Okay. Okay. It is extremely buggy. And also the recovery tween is playing immediately. Which is not correct. Okay, so this is broken beyond belief. Oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm gonna have to mull it over some more. I don't know why the recovery tween is starting immediately. That makes no sense. Oh, wait, I know why. Oh, I know why. It's because this... Oh, there's another complication here. The grace period needs to take effect. I'm starting the grace period immediately. But it needs to take effect not necessarily after the animation is over, but near when the animation is over. So that introduces a whole new bit of complexity now. Because previously I was only starting that grace timer when the swing animation was done, and then the grace timer ended after that. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So now do I need to... I basically just need to do the same thing, except now I need to keep track of two things. I need to keep track of how many ticks the animation takes to complete, and then apply a grace period after that. I think that should be fine. I basically just need to... I'll probably just need to convert how long the animation takes. The other thing is, like, eventually I'm going to have, like, attack speeds and stuff, so I think I just need to convert how long the animation takes to a tick value, wait for that timer to be done, and then apply the grace timer after that. Because obviously I shouldn't be able to click multiple times while the animation's happening. Basically, once you're like 75% of the way through the animation, it should start accepting like grace period attack inputs. And that should be the thing that, yeah, that should be like the little buffer. So yeah, there's a few utils to help deal with ticks and time as well. It'll be a lot easier to work with once you read up on it. Where in the docs is that? Help deal with ticks and time as well. Network time, is it in here? Oh, on tick. Is this what I should be using instead? Okay, I'm assuming I'll have to read through. I should just read through all of these. Tick rate matching. Okay, I'm assuming this is what I need to look at, right? So I'll read up on that too. Goodness gracious. Network time is a class. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll read through this then. All right, well, watch. I'll be fine within a week. Within a week, I'll be like, good to go. Cool. All right, well, that's going to be it for the stream today, though. I did 2 hours. I didn't even take a break today. I was so enamored with bashing my head against the wall. But I think I have a good approach now. This is just part of the learning experience, I suppose. Trying to understand the new convention. I thought I had a pretty good handle on multiplayer when I did Globins, and I think I did, honestly, but this is just an entirely new way of thinking about multiplayer, so I've got to wrap my head around that still. But I think I'm making progress. I'm getting there slowly. The information's seeping through my thick skull. So hopefully here soon I'll actually be able to be productive on these streams. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and thanks for being sounding boards and challenging me. I very much appreciate that. Definitely helps think through all the problems for sure. So yeah, that's very helpful. Anyway, yeah, thank you all for watching. Again, if you want to support my work, you can purchase Gunforged on Steam, and you might also want to consider leaving a review. If you do, that would be very much appreciated. I also have, maybe I shouldn't advertise my Udemy courses because I just spent hours struggling. My Udemy courses are not multiplayer though, so you can check those out below if you're interested in those. And yeah, it's a lot of NetFox specifics. Naive multiplayer versus the NetFox Recon way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely more complicated, but thank you, Dusty Dog. Yeah, thank you all for your help, and thank you all for chatting. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you. I may be streaming. Well, no, I probably won't stream this weekend. So I'll see you here Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.